And when I stopped playing ball, I was like, I actually could focus on things for a period longer than like 30 seconds, which was insane to me. And I just thought that was because I was like, had a lot of clarity because I was losing the weight, I was slimming down. And then all of a sudden I had my last concussion. I was working out, hit it a little too hard, just lights out, and woke up sort of just bleeding on the ground there because I bashed my head against the dumbbell rack. And yeah, when I went to the hospital later that day, I was like, oh man, this is how I felt for like the last 10 years of my life. How much did I shorten the good years of my memory not telling people when my head was hurting out there? Hi, my name is Douglas Henze, and I am a member of the 2023 Cohort, and I am a third-year PhD candidate in Bioengineering, which is in the schools of engineering and medicine here at Stanford. And I imagine a world where people do not have to watch those that they love forget who they are.
Welcome to the Imagine a World podcast from Knight-Hennessy Scholars. We are here to give you a glimpse into the Knight-Hennessy scholar community of graduate students spanning all 7 Stanford schools, including business, education, engineering, humanities, law, medicine, and sustainability. In each episode, we talk with scholars about the world they imagine and what they are doing to bring it to life.
Today, you'll be hearing from Doug Henze, a third-year PhD candidate in bioengineering. During our conversation, you'll hear Doug's experience growing up in the Deep South, playing and walking away from football, what people get wrong about STEM folks, and so much more.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of the Imagine a World podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Sydney Hunt. I'm a rising second-year PhD student in electrical engineering here at Stanford in the 2023 cohort of Knight-Hennessy. I am joined today by 2 amazing individuals. One, my fellow co-host, Willie. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's up, y'all? Yeah, I'm on the other end of this situation now. I am Willie Thompson, a member of the 2022 cohort. I just finished a master's at the business school at the GSB, and I got 1 year at the Graduate School of Education.
Yeah,
so 1
degree wasn't enough.
It wasn't. When you get, yes, 1 degree wasn't enough. I'll leave it at that. And today we got a very special guest kicking off the first season.
Drum roll, please.
Actually, I don't know if I have to pay for that, so I'll stop in terms of royalties. But Doug Henze!
Hey, how we doing?
We're good, man. How you feeling? What's this, Wednesday? Hump day?
Yeah, hump day. Getting through it.
Okay. What's your summer been like?
Hey, man, it's just a lot of research, a lot of writing, a lot of staring at a screen. Occasionally I get outside, but for the most part, it's just grind.
Grind never stops.
So you both are PhD candidates, right?
No, not yet.
You're not a candidate yet? Okay.
I'm not a candidate yet. Doug is amazing.
Okay, Doug is a candidate.
Yes.
You are a PhD student?
Student, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And for those who need clarity on that, the transition from student to candidate is when you pass this test called quals or qualifications. Doug, if you want to maybe hint at what that means since you passed it because you're awesome and amazing.
Yeah. So, the qualifying exam is sort of this, are you fit to graduate thing that schools make people do. And depending on where you're at, it can be like a, chopping block. They could be kicking you out. My department was a bit more chill than that. So pretty much everybody was going to pass or get a conditional pass here. Yeah. And then it's just a weird name change where they're like, okay, you have a project, you're focused on your project, and just work on that. Just get that done and you can leave.
Yeah. It's like a reverse thesis defense. Almost.
Yeah. It's like the defense before the defense.
Yeah, exactly.
But get you ready, I'm assuming, for the real thing.
Oh, it just makes you write everything down. It makes you, get your ducks in order.
Yeah, I love that. And like I said, you're both in PhD programs. What is PhD life in the summer as opposed to during the school year?
For me, it's like I always get like a random undergraduate from some other university that comes knocking on the door, and don't say aw. Don't say aw. Put them to work. But no, they it's a good chance to flex the leadership capabilities. It's a good chance to learn to mentor somebody. And it's always fun to figure out what people do in other half of the country, because I had one person coming from Switzerland at one point.
Oh,
that was
wow. Yeah.
That was interesting. And this latest guy I got, he's from Brandeis.
Okay.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that the summer really adds on, is like I just have to mentor extra kids.
Gotcha.
Students, not kids.
Sydney.
Yeah. For me, well, this is my first summer being a PhD student. Doug has 2 under his belt. I would say it's a lot slower on campus. Like, it's a lot quieter. You can find parking more easily.
So much easier.
if you're driving.
Everywhere.
So everywhere.
Trader Joe's.
Yes, everywhere. And that includes bikes and cars, not just cars. So that is quite a plus. I do miss a lot of friends, I think, because right now everyone's, or I guess especially within KH, not everyone's a PhD student. So some friends are working or interning, in New York. So I'm excited for them to come back. But yeah, similar to Doug, it's just grind time, man. Like, you're in the lab all day, every day. Well, not every day. I do take the weekends off when I can. Sometimes I go in, I'll admit. There's an asterisk to that. Yes, but it's been good and it's been chill. But I'm excited for people to come back, and I'm excited for, the start of the new year when, now I'm second year. No more baby.
Speaking of excitement, we're excited to also learn more about Doug and your life and what you've been up to. Great Imagine the World statement. Pithy, powerful. I can't think of a third P, but those are the 2 that came to mind initially. And before we start this conversation, there's a bunch of stuff we want to talk about. We want to start with basically your origin story. This is a holdover from season 1, so folks who listened before will know where this question is going to start, and then we'll just take our conversation from there. But before we talk about that world that you imagine and how you want people to be able to remember the folks that they love, we have to talk about the world you're born into and the world you've experienced thus far. So where are you from, and what was your journey here to Stanford?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes, sir.
205 till I die, man. And I grew up there to 2 loving parents, Diana and David Henze. My dad was a athletic trainer at the college in the area, so I always was around sports. My mom played sports in college, so
What sports?
she was a basketball player.
Okay. What position?
Oh, yeah.
She was a guard. She
Nice.
never specified if she was shooting or point, but yeah. So I grew up around ball of all kinds, and ended up falling in love with it. Played football for basically my entire life since I was 9.
Wow.
And,
Wow, yeah.
luckily, I was okay at that.
More than okay.
I'd say.
I'd say more than okay.
Right.
Luckily, I was okay with that, and I was able to hold down some good grades. Ended up going to Harvard. From Harvard, I joined school as a pre-med, as so many do, and then was no longer a pre-med, and decided that math and science were pretty fun. Went the engineering route. Following COVID, I worked in manufacturing for about 6 months. Got back to school, said grad school is probably a good option here. And yeah, that's kind of what led me to Stanford as it is.
Well, an interesting thing about your time at Stanford is that you were part of the first group of people who applied to Knight-Hennessy after you'd already been in your PhD program. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember filling out my Stanford application in, I want to say it was like December 21 is when I officially hit submit, and it said, there was like one little checkbox. It said, "Did you apply through Knight-Hennessy?" And I remember like looking up what that was just in like the Safari tab on my phone, and it said exactly what it was. It was very abstract. It was just leadership. There was basically just that big word. That's all I could see on my phone. I was like, oh, that would have been cool, but I missed the application deadline by a long ways. And as I was coming in here, they basically told all the PhD students, hey, for those of you that want extra funding, like look at all of these fellowships through Stanford. And Knight-Hennessy popped up, and I had kind of just toggled that website for a while thinking it would be super cool. And yeah, so had a very fortunate stroke of luck that my year was the first year they let people in, first year of their PhD program. So just applied for that, and it was a super life-giving experience actually doing the application. So I was I was stoked no matter what happened. And I was fortunate enough to meet people like Sydney in my cohort.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, Doug is being so humble right now. I'm like waiting for him to brag about.
Well, it's a humility at Knight-Hennessy value, I believe.
I feel like it's like really hidden in
It's
there.
hidden. It's hidden.
It's nestled in there.
Yeah, but there are a lot of humble people here for sure.
Makes it a healthy place.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about your application later, but
Yes, a question about, I guess, this balance that you had, I guess, throughout your life, but also more specifically in playing, right, D1 football at Harvard and being at Harvard as an engineering major. And then now at Stanford, right, you didn't just decide to stay with the PhD program in bioengineering, which already in itself is a lot, but you added Knight-Hennessy on top of that. And I was just wondering, like, generally speaking, if you find that balance, how do you stay sane? How do you ensure that your day-to-day is not to the point where you're like working at peak maximum efficiency all the time?
Caffeine, but no, I can start with ball because that one just made a lot more sense to me. It was, everybody remembers like those first few weeks of college where you're just trying to make friends. You're just reaching out for anybody that's out there. I was very fortunate in that they just sort of plopped me on a campus and they said, so you have these 30 guys that are all coming in at like the same time as you. They all kind of have to be your friend. You're like going to be with them for the next 4 to 5 years of your life. And everybody else on this team, you kind of have to rely on them. So I had this really, really good support system for basically my entire time in college. So it was either trying to find an easy class. Yes, I had to do that. Trying to find out like how to take this engineering class and figure out how to work the timing around practice. You could just walk into the locker room and shout out a question and somebody would pop their head around a corner and try and answer it. So, I mean, being in that environment, it felt so hard to fall behind. It was just, all the help was there. It was absolutely amazing. And, it made you want to start reciprocating that, start putting out help and start putting out the feelers to help other guys.
Yeah.
And then when you get to Stanford, it's like, there's sort of that void in every athlete's life once they lose their sport. And you're like, okay, how do I fill that?
Yeah.
I am working in a research lab. We're not going to talk about how many hours anybody works. That's a very dangerous game when you start talking to PhD students. But it's like, I basically filled up my entirety of time that there was no football with work. And as you mentioned, it's kind of a dangerous game to be playing.
It's a fine line.
Very fine line. So, I mean, I keep my sanity by doing like, just working out in the mornings, always chasing towards something athletically. Pick up a marathon like, twice a year, pick up an Ironman on occasion.
That sounds very casual.
That's the latest goal. The Ironman's the latest goal.
You make marathon and Ironman sound like groceries.
the marathons are chill at this point. The Ironman, that's what we're working towards.
The marathons are chill at this point. All right, cool.
Yeah, I remember there was what month was it that you ran the 30 miles?
That was like November or something.
Yeah, do you want to explain that story real quick?
Yeah.
This is like one of the very first interactions I had with Doug, and I already knew he was a star just from the vibes I got when I met him. But yeah, this moment for sure clarified.
Yeah. So, I mean, I helped run this committee back at Harvard. It's sort of commemorating a guy that was on the team when I was there, actually from my hometown. And he suffered a devastating spinal cord injury when we first got there. And so, we do fundraising efforts either mainly centered around the fall. There's this big event in Boston or New York, depending on where the Harvard Yale game is. And additionally, around that, we do a 3.2 mile run. And because it's like just a little bit more than a 5K, and his number was 32. And I remember sitting there, I was like, why do we only do 3.2 miles? And I was like, it's because everybody's too soft to run 32 miles for this. So I just decided to rip a 32, just, really spamming the stories, trying to make sure people were aware of what was going on and try to get as many people to sign up and show out as possible. There was a decent showing after that. I will admit there was a lot of interaction on that post, but it was super fun experience. Running 32 miles with minimal training is not fun.
But you did it.
I did do that.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. Sydney was there at the finish line, the quote unquote finish line, which was just my part.
You made a makeshift finish line. Yeah.
Okay. Where was the makeshift finish line?
I think it was Kevin and Tom, right? Yeah. Came with us, who are also 2023 cohort scholars, and we tied two people's sweatshirts together, the sleeves. Doug ran through, and then we had a little like phone playing. I think it was "We Are the Champions" or "Eye the Tiger," one of those songs. I forget which one it was.
I was blacked out by like mile 30. I don't know.
Yes. But I think the best thing that we did is we had a Powerade at the finish line, and so Doug was able to chug that down and recover. Blue, I think. Yeah.
Blue Frost?
Yeah.
Like that.
Nah, just straight blue, I think.
Just straight
okay.
blue.
Actually,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy how people like, there are actual flavor names, but everybody just says the color.
Yeah,
Yes,
like purple.
that's true.
Or, yeah, no one remembers like the cherry limeade, Gatorade, for sure.
Yeah.
So all this way of perseverance and balance. I mean, one thing I'm interested in learning about you even happens before Harvard, and you mentioned you're from Birmingham, but specifically from Hoover, and Hoover is. I'm from the Deep South too, and I remember Hoover from Two A Days, like the MTV like reality show that was like covered. You didn't go to that high school, did you?
I did not go to Hoover. No.
Okay, yeah. But it was anyway. I won't go down the rabbit hole about Two A Days. But that was like my brother and I were in front of the TV watching that like every week. What was Hoover like in growing up in Birmingham and the Deep South?
I mean, it's hot. It's hot all the time, but it's one of those weird places where. You got what you see on the media. You got a lot of people trying to tear down the Southeast, but at the same time, when you go down there, when there are little pockets, there are little pockets where everybody knows each other's names, and you can walk down the street and a smile is actually a smile. Whereas you know what I'm talking about.
I feel that deeply. Yeah.
But no, so I mean, growing up in just the Southeast in general, I feel like you get that vibe. Hoover specifically. So I went to the Redhead Stepchild High School. I went to Spain Park, and basically the city would throw on all these events. They were like, "This is the Hoover High School event," and we were over there like, "Woo, yeah." But no, we were fortunate. We ended up beating them. My time there, we went to the state playoffs. So the city actually had to recognize us for a little bit. It was a good time.
Nice. But no state championships.
No. See, that we got that. You get a blue map if you win. You get a red map if you're runner up.
Okay.
Nice.
That red map hurts.
Oh.
That red map hurts bad.
Oh man. What position did you play in football?
I was a defensive tackle.
For those not particularly familiar with football terms, what does that mean?
Okay, so explain this for Sydney here.
Sydney's Corner. That might be your recurring segment.
Yeah.
For layman here, it's defensive tackle is sort of, the guy that snaps the ball.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm the guy that hits the person that snaps the ball.
Oh, snap. Okay. Oh, pun intended.
Yeah. So it's like I'm just trying to go tackle a guy with a ball.
Yeah.
And the closer you are to the center of the field, the heavier you have to be.
Okay.
So I was rocking the scale never said 300. I was 297 on the scale officially. And that's the heaviest I got in my playing days.
Yeah.
So,
what got you into that position? Like, is that just something that...
I was slow.
Oh, man.
No, it was fun. So it's like everybody has a body type when they play football, and it's like your position is going to be tailored towards your body type. So I was, I'm about 6'2", 6'2" and a half if I'm wearing cleats. And I was always on a bit heavier set. And I remember one coach just looked at me. He was like, you get up to about 270, you'd be a decent defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I took that to heart. I ballooned up from like 210 to 260 between like my sophomore and my junior year.
Sure.
And put a little bit of gut on myself. It was all good. But I just let one coach sort of dictate what I did in football, and I let that rock for a bit.
And you've done I know I've seen a lot of offensive linemen like Jeff Saturday, for example, other folks. He played for the Indianapolis Colts. Like he looked the size when he was playing, and then he like totally shrunk after he retired. And I can say the same trend tends to hold for the defensive side of the ball too.
Yeah. We try. We try our best, man. It's sort of this one thing where you want to do the opposite of what you did when you were playing.
Right.
So sometimes skinny guys will blow up a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes the big guys will get smaller, and sometimes you just stay the same size.
Yeah. If you were this proportionality when you were starting to play football, what position do you think you'd play?
See, I would say linebacker, but I know it wasn't fast enough for that.
Maybe. You never know. You never know.
Might start a cage football team, see what he's got. Flag football.
Flag football by Cohort?
Yeah.
I'm down. Yeah.
I could get behind that. I did one round of IM football here, and all I did was watch. I never went full speed on running in any capacity.
Yeah.
Love that context on your story. I mean, let's maybe transition a little bit to your time here at Stanford and your imagined world statement. What sparked you to come up with you thinking of a world where nobody has to watch those they love forget them? Where's that come from?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of goes like way back to 2010. So I mean, I'm like 11 years old right now in this context, and that's around when there was a major uptick in people being very conscious of concussions and head trauma and what that does in sports. And I would always joke with my mom. I don't recommend joking with your mom about this at the age of 11. That, I'm just going to go and get a bunch of concussions, Mom. And, it's not going to do anything. After you get a few and you hide a few and you keep playing through them, you get a little ditzy there. You don't quite remember everything. And then you hear the stories of all the guys that make their way totally through. They play ball for years and years and years. And I can't even remember their own kids' names. Like, we got the Mike Websters of the world, the Junior Seau's of the world, people that ended up committing suicide because things just got so bad. They basically developed Alzheimer's at the age of 40, 40 to 50 range. And, you hear those and you just get terrified as a football player. And then, going on top of that, normal people that didn't, bash their head against other human beings for years of their life, start getting forgetful at the age of 60 in the case of, some of my family members. It starts to break your heart a little bit knowing that you could either willingly shorten this amount of time that you got a decent memory, or you can do everything in your power to try and resist it, and you're going to start losing memory. You're going to start losing your cognitive ability. So that's sort of what prompted that. But it's just fear, I guess.
Yeah. I know you did a storytelling on this topic. And for those who don't know, storytelling is this class that the first year Knight-Hennessy Cohort takes together, and every morning or once a week in the morning, we'll have like a improv/presentation workshops with Dan and Lisa. And Doug did a story on this, which was really powerful. And I was wondering if you could maybe touch on that a little bit of like when, I guess, this statement started to really become personal to you because you like started to actually see the effects like yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of started, I'd say, after my playing career is when I really realized, because, I played football for 10 to 12 years of my life, averaging something around 30 hits to the head every time I put on a helmet. Accumulate that over years and years and years. I was rocking north of 10,000 hits to the head because I was an idiot and hit with my head almost every play. Never officially went to the training room to get these diagnosed, but it was like concussions, definitely north of the standard 4 where people start making you consider things. And when I stopped playing ball, I was like, I actually could focus on things for a period longer than like 30 seconds, which was insane to me. And I just thought that was because I was like, had a lot of clarity because I was losing the weight. I was slimming down. And then all of a sudden I was, my last concussion, I was working out, hit it a little too hard, just lights out, and woke up sort of just bleeding on the ground there because I bashed my head against the dumbbell rack. And when I went to the hospital later that day, I was like, oh man, this is how I felt for like the last like 10 years of my life. How much did I shorten like the good years of my memory not telling people when my head was hurting out there? Like, it was so bad that like even when I was playing ball, one of my friends would look at me, hey, does your head feel okay? No, give me like 5 minutes. And it was sort of just like that understanding of, hey, give me 5 minutes. I probably hit somebody way too hard with my head and I should not be in here, but here I am.
Yeah. That's a lot to grapple with. Like, how do you grapple with that? I mean, part of it is right through the research you're doing, I'm assuming, but I guess on a more personal level.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it with the research. I mean, I study aging, so it's a lot like the Alzheimer's sort of impact that comes from all the blows to the head. So I'm looking basically at the same symptoms that I potentially could be dealing with, that people like me, people that I shared a field with, could be dealing with down the line. But I think on a personal level, really dealing with sort of mortality of myself. I'm a man of faith. It's like when I close my eyes every night and I pray, I'm not necessarily praying for myself. I'm praying for those around me. And it's like, it's knowing that there are things bigger than yourself, and sort of that chance to have prayer and to give thanks makes you realize that you're not central. And when you're not central, it's a lot easier to sort of grapple with things like that.
Hear you talk about that makes me wonder, what's your relationship with gratitude like now, or thankfulness now, considering the experiences you've had? And it feels as if what I'm hearing is an appreciation for things that you have because of the things that have like come and gone in terms of like your life and like how you experience your day to day. And so I'm wondering what that experience is like for you.
When you realize how fleeting everything is, when the people that you love go suddenly, when you have this sort of existential loss of one of your buddies is not the same after something, you really start to cherish every day for what it is. And I think it's like, it makes it so much easier to say, I should not be complaining about anything that's going on in my life. Like if I have a bad day at work, my girlfriend's so quick to say like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what are you talking about? Life could be so much worse. Like I'm in this beautiful place. I'm surrounded by wonderful people. I get to just go spend basically grant money to study things that I find interesting, things that are ever present in my life and the life of people that I love. There is nothing to complain about. I'm so thankful to be here. And it's just having that sort of perspective on life has been very valuable.
No, I agree with that for sure. I feel like I also have that mindset when approaching, difficulties in life / the PhD, because, there's a lot of experiences in life that, like you said, really touch upon the mortality of humans especially. But I also, from my perspective, sometimes, again, going back to that fine line of like gaslighting yourself, of never letting yourself have a bad day. I know Johnny, in a previous episode, I talked about like when he came to grad school, he started to experience toxic positivity for the first time, or being told that he can express that. And I don't think I get that from you ever, but I wonder what's your line of not gaslighting yourself, but also still having an immense amount of gratitude, because it is a privilege to be here, especially as a PhD student and especially as a Knight-Hennessy scholar at Stanford.
Sydney, I'm going to answer that with a question real quick.
Sure.
If I were to ask you, how are you doing today? How would you answer it?
I mean, I would always say great, because life is great, in the context when you zoom out and, like you had mentioned, think about on the day-to-day level where you, like other options that your life could be.
But I mean, so that's part of the problem is everybody says great. Oh, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And I've sort of made it a habit recently to give just very candid, I'm kind of tired right now. It's like there's a lot going on. And I think when you're just real with yourself in that capacity of, like it's a bad day, but it could be worse. It's so easy to pull back and just sort of realize that I'm not gaslighting myself here. Like it's a day. It happened. It's it's a day that I'm going to move on from tomorrow. And that's sort of how I grapple with that. It's like can I be candid and say, is it a bad day? Or do I have to say to everybody, it's an amazing day?
Sure, yeah. I guess that breaks down encourages people to be more genuine with each other as well, which is something I definitely feel like you've expressed in Cage. I feel like a lot of people who are friends with you feel that genuine friendship connection. And it's, not the small talk, surface level stuff. It's real stuff that people talk about, and I think has benefited you a lot in allowing yourself to feel more connected to people and people feel connected to you.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me around the specificity of language to use that I use around describing my state of mind or where I am. And some of that came to me from the pandemic, where I think we were on Zoom for everything and say, how you doing? I'm good. And I'm trying to be like, there's no way, like we're living in a global pandemic. We've been like on a lockdown for forever.
There's no way you're doing well.
Yeah. Or I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. The pandemic did illuminate this. Some people had better living situations than others. And I think the thing that I came up with was like, people are like, I'm decent. Like I'm decent. Like that was like the thing that I would go to. Is like decent. Like feels like very like clearly not like I'm doing great, but it's not like I'm horrible either. And even using that language allowed me to access like different aspects of my emotional state, as opposed to just going quickly into the, like, I'm good, like, I'm cool. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
The pandemic was a dark time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man.
for sure.
Yeah. Did you graduate during the pandemic?
Nah,
or?
that's when I took time off from school. So to maintain eligibility, I had to take a little bit of time away, and I'd asked Harvard for permission to do so.
So talk about that experience, like taking time off from school to maintain your eligibility, and just what led to that decision, and what was that? Yeah, I think you said it was a year. What was that like?
So I took 6 months. It added just like a year onto my whole trajectory, though, given the nature of grad school. But I would not recommend doing what I did to anybody. I ended up working so for those that don't know how a manufacturing shift works, you're supposed to have people manning a plant at like all hours of the day, and you run on 10-hour shifts. So there's like the 6:30 to like the 4:30 crew. And then there's the 1:30 to 11:30 crew. Mm-hmm. But if you're leaving at 11:30, you're not actually leaving until midnight. And they said, okay, well, what do we put the intern? What do we put the intern on?
Oh boy.
We're going to put him on the second shift. We're going to really like make sure he's getting after, really enjoying his time. And most people on a 40-hour work week, so you only work 4 days a week. How do we make sure the intern's really learning what's going on? Let's make him work 5 days a week. It's a global pandemic. You really can't be doing that much outside of this.
Yeah.
And where is this manufacturing role? Where were you interning?
I was interning at Sanofi, more specifically the Genzyme acquisition of Sanofi.
Okay.
So there's a plant in Alston, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Just off the river.
Yeah.
And it was basically right across the street from Harvard football. So it was
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
it would have been perfect had I just had like that little internship as like a side gig over the summer before my final season. And, luckily enough, that company was super, super generous and let me continue working. I actually like flipped departments in order to work for the full 6 months. So It was like
So you moved?
Kind of. The thing about working the second shift is everybody else is asleep by the end of it. So I like reached out to the data analytics portion of the company. I was like, hey, can I do some work? This is like them/manufacturing engineering. And it's like, they let me do a little bit of work as like a trial, and it worked out well. So they said, hey, since you're staying here for a little bit longer, you want to like work for this half of the company, like I think we can swing that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, thank goodness I do not have to stay up this late anymore.
Yeah.
Because I was still training. I was still getting up at crack of dawn, training with my boys that were up there, sleeping for like 3 hours in between training and getting to work.
Oh man,
that's crazy.
It was an interesting time in my life. A lot of character growth.
There's one thing that's clear about your experience that I want to get your take on. Like Sydney said at the beginning of the episode, we're in the beginning of season 2. You are someone who's from a STEM background, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Sydney's also from that tree of discipline as well. And surprisingly, we didn't have a ton of STEM people last season, which I think was actually kind of cool to see all the ways that people choose to come to Stanford that aren't related to something that people would normally associate with Stanford. And I can imagine we'll definitely have more STEM folks this season as we get things rolling. What do you think people get wrong about STEM folks?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a really good question. I'm not necessarily the right person to answer that question, though, because I was very fortunate in undergrad in that Harvard had a wonderful liberal arts backbone to the whole education system. And so I like to consider myself well-rounded.
Okay, yeah. At Morehouse, we call that well-balanced. That was one of the 5 wells.
Yeah. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that people get wrong about STEM individuals is that we can't necessarily talk about like literature. We can't. Please do not talk to me about literature in any capacity. But like,
question locked and loaded.
But like, we are capable of reading a book. We are capable of understanding something and intuition. Like, it's not all monotone. It's not all numbers. Like, we still got to tell a story. We still got to have fun with it. So I think that's one common misconception people have about those in the STEM fields.
Mm-hmm. Were you always a STEM person? Did you ever have a transition?
I think the closest I ever got to not being an engineer was when my mother looked at me and said, "You'd be wasting your brain if you weren't a doctor."
Oh,
and she tried to
If you
send me.
weren't a doctor.
If I was not a doctor,
wow.
I'm going to be a doctor in a different capacity.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like a real doctor, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's they don't let me work on people. But
This will be Dr. Henze.
I'll still be Dr. Henze. I will write it on my airline ticket one time.
Yes.
One time. That's a mark of every PhD. Really.
Oh, really?
You have to
Is
write
that a
it.
thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first time you ride a plane after you get your PhD, you put doctor one time.
Yeah.
Just to have people say it.
Some people even put it on their credit cards. They like order new credit cards, so it says like comma PhD after or doctor in the front. Yeah.
Are either of you going to do that once you have your...
Plane ticket for sure.
okay,
Yeah.
plane
Plane
ticket
ticket
for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Everything
Anything
else, no.
No? Okay.
It feels like a lot of work to change everything, and I also feel like I don't know. I'm not just doctor. Like I'm Sydney. You know.
Yeah, for sure. For
And at
sure.
the same
That's
time, I
what
feel
I
like when
mean.
people ask, like, is there a doctor here?
Yes,
like,
yeah,
it's for
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, somebody's dying over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't-
You don't want to set yourself up.
I don't want someone to up for that one.
Yeah, that makes a ton of
no,
sense.
no.
Like,
Yeah.
I know first aid. I don't know it that well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sydney?
Oh, about STEM people, what people get wrong. I definitely agree with Doug that there actually is a side of us that not only appreciates but understands the humanities. I think what people also get wrong is like, I guess it's more what engineering feels like as a whole. Like, for example, I'm doing PhD in electrical engineering, and everyone just imagines that being like circuits and hardware, and you're like in a room by yourself with no lights and like,
That is 100% what I pictured.
yeah, exactly. And that is true for some people who are doing their, EE PhD. But for me, I work in the hospital, and I work with people and individuals, and I work, I guess, more on things that are related to coding as well. And so it's kind of, similar to what Doug said of being well-rounded, like being, I guess, attempting to be a jack of all trades in many areas. And of course you have your specialty, but engineering actually encompasses a lot of different things. And whatever your degree, especially in the PhD, whatever that major or subject says, oftentimes can mean so many different things.
For the folks who need to know more about the STEM folks, I think this is a good starting point. And last question I'll ask before we probably start going to some of our closing topics. You were mentioning a lot of the more darker aspects of what people experience when it comes to memory and how memory is affected by age or by affliction via lots of headbutting, like literal headbutting. What are some of the things? And I know because even in bioengineering, I know a lot of the ideas are very like hush hush because you don't want someone like poaching your ideas if you go deep into the research and what you're doing. Just what are some things that are giving you hope about society's ability to create the kind of world that you imagine?
Man, it's when you look at all the research that's coming out, I think one of the things that science has done so well recently is all research is basically open source at this point. Everybody that has research coming from the NIH, that has research coming from these different philanthropy organizations, they all end up putting their research on something called Bioarchive. And basically what Bioarchive is just this whole repository of papers that it's like the second somebody has something that they want to submit somewhere, they put it on Bioarchive when they submit it. And it's done a really good job at sort of breaking down these barriers of like making research super accessible. And basically what that does is it's making all the data sets available to everybody. It's making it to where you can really start mining and understanding and really starting to figure out what is leading to these very negative repercussions that come with age or head trauma. And I think the more readily available that data is, the faster we're actually going to be able to see people start pushing towards solutions. And I think we're sort of reaching the age of the Cell Atlas. You look at the Allen Brain Institute, you look at the Chan Zuckerberg BioHub. They're constantly pushing out stuff that's, can we understand the body better? Can we understand cell types better? And if you can understand these systems, only then can you start to build a better future. And I think we're reaching a point where we have enough data to where that's finally possible.
Yeah, I agree with Doug. It's actually quite a good time to be a grad student right now. I feel like we're really lucky that a lot of data is out there and openly available to us so that we can, push the boundaries forward and not have to wait, 5 years for something to be published because we know the review process takes forever. But instead, using things like Bioarchive right away allows you to get the information out there more readily. Cool. Okay, so you applied to Knight-Hennessy as a first-year PhD student. So you started as a second year. How did your experience at Stanford change, in between the 2 years?
So I don't think y'all understand how expensive food is.
Yeah.
The amount that my food budget has just shrunk. I have not needed to spend anything on food since getting to Knight-Hennessy. There are so many events going on.
Yeah.
And it's through those events, I get both the enrichment of going to said events, and I also get the fun little savings that also result from not having to buy food all the time.
Sure.
You get physically nourished, you get mentally nourished as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. On top of that, it's really nice to be able to interact with people that are not just in a STEM field. As much as I love my STEM people, it's super nice to be able to interact with the humanities again, to interact with the business people, to interact with the lawyers. And it's you just learn so much more about the world when you get outside of that little bubble, when you get outside that little silo that grad school can be.
Yeah, and it's really easy to talk to people too. I think here, when you come to the many events, you have, people from every background sitting at the table next to you. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of KH and the many amazing things that come with it, if you were to give advice to someone who is considering applying to Stanford or Knight-Hennessy, was there anything that you would have done differently? Was there anything that you would have wanted to know before joining?
I think if I were to give advice to anybody that is thinking about a postgraduate fellowship in general, it is to be unapologetically you in that application process. Because I think it's so often that people are putting on paper what they think an admissions committee wants to see and not who they actually are. And I think the second you show that bit of you, it is both a life-giving and life-altering experience. I think I understood more about my background throughout filling out this application than I did before. It is a chance to look very introspectively at yourself and to understand what makes you tick. And as far as what people should know about joining the community, one, it's a toss-up. Once it gets to the point where you're here, everybody who applies is so amazingly qualified. And once you're actually in this space, it's not a time to gatekeep. It's a time to give back. It's a time to really breathe into the Stanford community.
Yeah.
And I think the more you lean into that when you're here, the better this community is perceived to the greater good and greater community.
Beautiful. That sounds great. Okay. My next question for you is related to, I guess, what you're talking about on the giving back and not gatekeeping. So how do you think the Knight-Hennessy community has supported you or helped you in your personal, professional endeavors? And do you feel I definitely know there's a lot of ways you've given back to KH, but maybe if you had to pick your favorite of how you feel you're paying it forward.
I would say that it's basically just talking to people. It's when you're here at night working, people are in their zone, they got the headphones on, and I feel it's just so easy to go about your business, not interrupt anybody, because it looks like they're grinding, it looks like they're working. And it's just so easy to go up to them, say, hey, how busy are you? Scale of 1 to 10. 90% of the time, somebody's going to say, oh, I'm just watching Netflix right now, or I'm not really doing anything. And it's just a chance to talk to somebody. It's a chance to have open conversations about who they are, where they came from. Because I guarantee you don't know everybody that walks through this house. You don't know everybody that walks around this campus. So getting sort of a peek into somebody's life is a chance to just let them open up, let them have a conversation they wouldn't have had otherwise.
And conversation definitely is a gift in this space in Denny House. And whether it's happening in an event where you bring in someone who's an exemplar, or you're doing it over lunch with another scholar, or with a member of the team, or even doing it with prospective admits, I think that's always, you always get something out of that. And you always find yourself reflecting or thinking back on those conversations a lot more than you would initially think in the first place. As you get into our wrapping up segments, one thing that we're keeping from the first season is our Improbable Facts dissection here. So what's an improbable fact or two you want to share with the audience?
I think my favorite improbable fact that I ended up putting on there was going into my junior year of college, I was in a 3-bedroom house.
Okay. How many baths?
2 bath.
Okay.
Three bath.
Okay. All right.
Three bed. Decent
Nice.
accommodation.
Yeah.
How many people do you think we could fit in there?
Oh boy.
Three bed. So there's 3 bedrooms. How many common areas were there?
There were about 3 common areas.
3 common
wow,
areas.
it's a big place,
Okay,
yeah.
3 common areas. So you're at least I'd imagine you can double up definitely in the bedrooms. So it's at least 6. And then common rooms. Assume it's like a living room in like in a mid high rise or whatever, a mid rise apartment at Stanford. You could probably get another 2. So 6, 12.
12 on the dot.
Dang.
12 on the dot.
That's crazy. I would have said 8.
It was not comfy. It was not comfy in the slightest.
Wait, so where were the 12 people? So was there at least 2 people in each bedroom and then people in common rooms?
So
or
there
common
was
spaces?
the one bedroom that was originally what I believe to be the master.
Okay.
We actually did it with 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms had 3 people each. 1 bedroom had 2 people.
Okay.
So, we got 8 upstairs.
Yep.
And then for some reason, we let some guys talk us into like, basically they ran the whole common areas by themselves.
Okay.
And there was a stretch of like 3 weeks where some like incoming freshmen were trying to find a place to crash.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, can we just like crash on the couch or something for like a week or 2? Like, we'll pay rent. I was like, you said rent?
Yeah.
So we had some incoming frosh sleep on the couch for a few weeks, and that bumped us up to 12.
Crazy.
Would you
That
do it
must be
again?
so affordable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're good.
Would I do that again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't got that in me at this point.
Yeah.
If I was a young buck, I could do it again. But
You're still a spring chicken.
Good. I like it. Okay. So now that we've gone over the improbable facts, we have a very new segment that we're starting in season 2 called Rapid Fire, where we send out this little form for people to just ask you a bunch of questions, and you can ideally answer in 1 sentence. That's the goal. If you need a little bit more, there's some wiggle room. Okay, the first question is, when you're eating a bowl of cereal, do you pour the cereal or the milk first?
cereal first.
Okay, good answer. That's the right answer.
Okay,
that is the right answer. Do you
that
pour
makes
milk
sense.
first, Willie?
No. I was thinking about do I pour milk first? Like, no, I don't think I ever done that.
I think
Oh.
you're supposed to pour milk first.
But it's hard to get the ratio right then if you don't pour the cereal in first.
Exactly.
I feel like.
But no,
Exactly.
I think you're supposed to pour the milk first. I don't do this, but
Yeah.
I have heard
Okay.
that you're supposed to pour the milk first. A, to act as portion control. B, to make sure the cereal's still crunchy.
Well, I think that depends.
interesting.
I want the cereal crunchy. And I don't necessarily want the cereal crunchy by the
I
end
like
of it.
kind of the little soggy cereal.
Yeah,
I'm a
100%.
fan of when it reaches that point.
What's your favorite cereal?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had cereal in years.
I think it's really bad for your health.
If I
well,
could,
at least the cereal I was eating was bad for my health.
if I could fill up a bowl of cereal, just like give me the Apple Jacks, man.
Man, Apple Jacks
Yum.
go crazy.
They're good.
I love Apple Jacks.
They're good.
Sydney?
Frosted mini wheats, hands down. Hands down. I think they're so good. Even the Trader Joe's knockoff version is also really good.
Frosted mini wheats.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard anyone.
I've heard of them. You know, back when it was like there was Special K or something,
Yeah.
like whatever that place was.
Yeah.
They used to sell them there. I remember them because they just had a big K on them. I had the knockoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
That just occurred to me.
I like the Trader Joe's knockoffs. They're very good, and they're much more affordable than buying actual
Frosted
mini wheats.
Mini
Yeah.
wheats.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw a young person eating mini wheats when I was growing up. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I just aged myself 20 years.
You're probably keeping mini wheats in business.
Probably. Honestly. Yeah, definitely.
funny.
Willie, you?
So many cereals. I mean, Apple Jacks definitely would have been up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably say Pops. Did you ever have Pops?
Yes, I have. Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was like a corn-based
I haven't
cereal.
had those in like 10 years.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like it was up there with Apple Jacks in terms of like the after cereal milk flavor.
Yes,
You know,
that's very true.
Like, I would easily make an ice cream
What was the
flavor.
mascot? Because
Was there a mascot?
every cereal had a mascot.
It was
No, wait, I
yellow.
remember
It
the Apple
definitely
Jacks
was
one was kind of
yellow.
crazy because it was Jamaican cinnamon stick. So that was,
And there was like sort of the angry apple with him.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see the writers' room for that. For that.
They still have a cinnamon stick mascot, I believe. I saw it the
Yeah.
other
Is he
day.
still Jamaican?
No, he's not
Yeah.
still Jamaican.
Okay, all right, because that was I just like at the time I didn't think it was anything deep. Like as an adult, I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. They were just like, I don't even know if there are apples in Jamaica. Like I don't know if they anyway. All right, let's see the Pops mascot. I'm seeing like I'm not seeing a mascot. I mean, I'm seeing like Sugar Pops, but those are the Pops I'm thinking of. Maybe I think I read the mascot before, because I know like. I'm thinking like Lucky Charms had the leprechaun.
Yeah.
Rice Krispies had the 3 thingies.
Snap, Crackle, Pop.
Snap Crackle Pop,
Yeah.
thank you. Smacks had the frog.
But
Captain Crunch.
But
Was
like
it
every
Crunch?
cereal back like early 2000s, late
Yeah.
90s, like all had a mascot.
I'm not seeing anything for For Pops.
Maybe
Corn
it's
Pops.
old man cereal and they don't have mascots.
You know what? It might be, but you know what I'm saying? It's real popular with the kids. You know what I'm saying? We definitely tearing it up. I'm looking at it. Rooster, Leprechaun, Count Chocula, the Rabbit for Tricks. Even the mini wheats had, a little situation there.
See, mine's young.
Anyway, we're going down a cereal rabbit hole. Dear great. There's Tony the Tiger, and then you got Grape Nuts. There was no cereal. Anyway, all right. Go ahead. We're going long to rapid fire, but go ahead, Sydney. This is the next one.
Okay, the next question is from your big brother, Eric, whose side comment says, I admire Doug for how he inspires not only me, but also everyone else around him. Exclamation point.
Love the exclamation point on
Yes,
that.
yes, much needed for context. So his rapid fire question for Doug is, after being a college athlete and running a marathon for the first time last year, are you training for any other athletic competition? If so, what are they?
I mean, like, I already sort of dropped the ball there. I said it's a little Ironman. That's the next thing. I got the bike up to 2 hours at this point.
Okay.
Got the smooth little 10-mile long run every week, so it's not too bad. The swim, we got to work on that technique.
Hey, bro, that's crazy.
We got to work on the technique on the swim.
Where are you swimming?
There's a little Redwood City gym that is like Stanford affiliated.
Okay.
Cool.
Lanes are empty. You don't got to battle the normal people. That is like, so for those that do not have the context here, there's one place you can swim on the Stanford campus without being an athlete, and the lanes are always just packed. You can't get in. Even when it like first opens, you're not getting a spot in that pool. But
This is Faryaga, like the outdoor one?
This is like Faryaga, the outdoor one over here.
Yeah.
But
It's mad nice over the summer. I'll tell you that right now.
it is nice over the summer. You still can't get in at 7 a.m. I tried.
At 7 a.m.?
7 a.m.
Wow.
That's people are banging down the door at 7 a.m.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't know that.
Dang.
I guess my 10 a.m. shift's been going great.
But that Redwood City gym,
Okay.
wide open. That's the goal right now. I'm actually going to try and do a little mile this weekend. See if I can. See if I can work on the technique of it.
That sounds good.
That's the next goal. I gotta, get an actual road bike to do that one though. My little hybrid ain't gonna make it for the 100 miles.
Oh my gosh, just did 100 miles?
The bike ride is like 100 and something miles.
Oh
for
my
full.
goodness. Wow. Okay, yeah, that'll keep you busy for a while training for that. Wait, I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. Okay, the next and final question I have, for those out there who want the right context, Doug does research on the metabolism at the single cell level and mitochondrial function. I hope I said that correctly. Is that accurate?
There's an old one here, but I'll reach back in my mind for this one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the rapid fire question is, if you could have a conversation with a single cell about its metabolic processes, what would you want to know or ask?
Okay, so this is kind of a selfish question in that if I'm looking at a cell, I really want to know, like, does he know what the deal is with the mitochondria? Because bear with me now. Bear with me.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
go for it. Yeah.
sure.
Mitochondria are theorized to come from some random bacteria that said, hey, let me get buddy-buddy with this cell. So and then they just like kind of got swallowed up, and they don't look like they look in the textbook. So like these big, weird, networky things. So if I were to talk to a cell, I'd just say, okay, like, how are you like talking to the mitochondria? Because the mitochondria is still basically a separate organism that lives inside of a cell.
Sure.
So it has its own genome, like it's just sort of ripping around in there, talking to the nucleus. So it's like very much a separate entity acting within each individual cell.
Yeah.
So I kind of would want to know, is it like our microbiome? Like, are they aware of it? Like, are they not aware of it? I'd want to figure out the origin. Does it know what's going on in there?
That'd be a good podcast. Yeah,
That
we
would
should
be a
interview.
good podcast.
You should interview.
Interview yourself.
Interview yourself. Yeah, that sounds perfect. That sounds perfect.
Well, Doug, thanks for spending time with us for kicking off season 2 with the KH Imagine a World crew. I'm very glad to have you kick us off here. And so thanks for spending the time. And we're grateful for your story and can't wait to see what you do with the research in the world you imagine.
Yes, thank you for coming on this podcast. It was an honor to have you.
Sydney stole my line there. Thank you for having me, y'all.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Imagine the World, where we hear from inspiring members of the KHS community who are making significant contributions in their respective fields, challenging the status quo and pushing the boundaries of what is possible as they imagine the world they want to see.
This podcast is sponsored by Knight-Hennessy Scholars at Stanford University, a multidisciplinary, multicultural graduate fellowship program providing scholars with financial support to pursue graduate studies at Stanford while helping equip them to be visionary, courageous, and collaborative leaders who address complex challenges facing the world. Follow us on social media at Knight-Hennessy and visit our website at kh.stanford.edu to learn more about the program and our community.